Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally, of course, the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, if I was assuming correctly, is that we did somehow manage able to climb onto the 5th and the final trial tower, but unfortunately though, I haven't exactly get a chance to able to tackle through that particular trial yet. That's mainly because I think it's probably best able to save it up and during at some point in this Thursday coming up. Well, relatively speaking though, I was originally trying to able to actually save it up until when it gets closer to Christmas time, but I figure because of how the fact that unfortunately though, in order to able to actually switch between these different characters at one point, we have to able to actually complete, without doubt, one of the hardest trials in the game, but I'm sure we're able to actually save that particular topic until for later. So because of that, yeah, and as a result, we did somehow manage able to climb into the forms of the 5th and final trial tower, no problem, despite I did fell off quite a few times, but regardless of such though, I did somehow manage able to execute it very, very nicely. So because of all that stuff though, yeah, that's what I can really say about it. So today, for this video is about the fact that we'll be able to actually continue exploring for the alternative version of Uranus' Island, and because of that, we've decided able to actually tackle through some more cyberspace segments from time to time, just to ensure for the fact that we can able to see some different layouts with the specific levels in mind. Although, keep this in mind though, is about the fact that this might actually took me quite a few attempts to able to actually completely done with certain parts throughout. Although, as you probably expect, is about the fact that we're obviously going to be saving up the rescuing all the animals in journey forms of one of those missions, and during at some point in the future, because I can't be bothered able to do them just yet. So either way though, yeah, that's what I can really say about the forms of this particular point at this point. And as you can see, we actually stumbled across into a new set of objects, as you probably can definitely tell. And that's what appears to be body forms of the rocket boost, which as a result, every time whenever you do manage to able to boost through them, basically it becomes a little bit more temporarily. Well, to be more specifically though, it's about the fact that if you dare touch the forms of those green objects known as the rocket boost, which not only it does give you a temporarily boost for a brief seconds worth noting for, but it's also worth noting for is about the fact that, as you can tell, you'll be invincible during this boost state. So because of that, think of like the forms of how it does in the good old days since Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and of course Sonic Forces. So because of that, well, except the noticeable differences being is that, if you probably already know, it only works temporarily in order able to actually just try to utilize the forms of the rocket boost, if you couldn't tell. So because of all that stuff though, yeah, there's not much to say about the forms of that particular item in mind. So anyways though, I'm actually very, very, very happy to report, well, assuming of course if you know exactly what I'm talking about, is that, well, obviously before we get to the most exciting part, during the course of this particular conversation, I just want to classify for something right from the start though, is that once again, I apologize for that particular uploading schedules has been quite significantly later for the sake of the forms of today anyway. Well, that's just mainly because no matter what though, as far as what Silver has already mentioned about this, especially concerning for the fact that he's now tackling through, without doubt, the hardest Zelda game ever made, which appears to be Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Although, I will admit though right away, he did manage to able to get some good progressioning so far, so as a result, he will be back for that game at some point in this weekend coming up. So because of that though, yeah, again, wish him luck though, especially concerning for the fact that it seems pretty interesting about for the fact that we're actually going to be tackling through some hardest aspects and journey forms of certain Let's Plays so far. Well, mind you, it wasn't until when it gets to the point until approximately until next year that we will able to actually focus on Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze at some point. We're not exactly sure when exactly, but I'm sure we're able to actually stay tuned for that. So, anyways though, so for now, today's date of course is the 7th of November today, in some cases in 2023 today. Now I suppose, no matter what though, it looks like that both Mighty and Ray are pretty much now onto the halfway point in terms of the forms of the main story mode for the likes of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, so I'm sure enough though is about the fact that until later on anyway, they're about to tackle for the forms of the e-reader levels at some point whenever they do manage to finish up everything for the main story mode. So because of that, yeah, it should be pretty exciting, all things considered. So, but anywho though, so there's also another explanation I want to discuss upon things, is that, well, I'm happy to report is that Wave 6 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass has finally happened. Well, at least it did somehow happen during the forms event 6 days ago, roughly. So as a result, we actually got ourselves the last 8 courses, and conveniently enough, not long now until when it actually releases. And I think, relatively speaking though, it was going to be able to be released at some point on the 9th of November, which I almost assume about for the fact that they'll try to save it up in December, much like the forms of how it does it in Wave 3. But I suppose no matter what though, actually, I'll explain more details about this in a moment, because as you can tell, I've only completed one mission so far, because I believe something tells me there's another hidden goal around here somewhere. So even then, hopefully we're able to do with a lot of emphasis on exploration, and also concerning for the fact that I was expecting to try my best to able to actually get an S rank during the forms of one of those tougher cyberspace segments from time to time. But again, it has been about quite a few days ago since I actually have last played this, especially after the events of playing certain Castlevania games, including Luigi's Mansion, for the sake of the forms of the Halloween-themed games, as you probably already expect. But hopefully, we will do some more Castlevania stuff until next Halloween, in addition with Luigi's Mansion 2, for the Switch version most notably, because of, you know, better quality, rather than just try to utilize the forms of modding the 3DS capture card. So because of that, although I would have liked able to afford the 3DS capture device, but it's really darn expensive right now. So because of that, there is no way I can able to actually afford that for the time being. So from now on though, I'm basically going to be fine just trying to able to actually get the Switch version of Luigi's Mansion 2. Not only we can able to do a Let's Play of that at some point in next year, but also about the fact that we can able to show off some online features and stuff like that. Because you know that the 3DS and Wii U online services is about to shut down until the next couple of months later. So because of that, yeah, it still is pretty sad indeed. So anyways though, another thing I wanted to discuss upon this is that, potentially speaking though, is that, well, like I said before, is about the fact that we are very happy about the fact that not only for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 6, but also we actually got ourselves a yet another Sonic game has been announced, likely at the same exact time, which as a result, the next Sonic game is going to be released on is, unfortunately, is going to be on Apple Arcade, which I almost assume about the fact that they'll try to release that for the sake of the forms of the App Store or anything else like that, but no, it's going to be exclusive to Apple Arcade, which is a bit disappointing, and the game is called Sonic Dream Team, which, wait a minute, does that subtitle look a bit familiar to you? Well, as a result, it's basically the exactly same subtitle as you saw from the likes of Mario Luigi Dream Team for the 3DS, so I have no idea why they decided able to reuse that particular subtitle for the game, likely also for Dream Team anyway. So, but at the very least, we did somehow manage able to accomplish the 2 other missions, if you can tell, except with the animal one, and especially noticeable, unfortunately though, I didn't get a chance to get the S rank, so maybe I suppose I'll come back for that in a later time, but for now on though, I suppose we're also able to focus on something else. So, thus, like I said before, is about the fact that I hate the fact that in the loading times departments can take absolute forever. Well, I suppose no matter what though, is about the fact that it's even like, I don't know about you, because it's been about a couple of days ago since I actually have last played this, because concerning for the fact that, well, obviously, in addition, well, we obviously going to be tackling through one Mario game once again, but also we still continue playing through Sonic Frontiers for now, and also we've able to actually gone back into the Zelda stuff at long last, after the events of Zelda 1 on the NES. Well, though, mind you, no matter what though, is that recently, Slim Kirby, he's actually now going to be going back to Zelda swing of things as well, except now he's tackling through the Game Boy Advance game.
Aw, what's the matter, Sonic? You have to take a break already? chance. Just one more round and then we're done. Or at least, one more round and then we go beat that big guy in the sky.
Oh, if it wasn't for cyber corruption, I'd punch that thing myself. But unfortunately, I have to leave it to you. Don't mess this up.
And as a result, he's going to be tackling through The Legend of Zelda Diminished Cap for the Game Boy Advance. So, concerning for the fact that until next year, for the fact that The Legend of Zelda Diminished Cap is going to be expected to become 20 years old next year, so that'll be a perfect opportunity to able to celebrate that game, until next year anyway. So, but anywho though, so there's also another thing I want to classify for something about this as well. In regards to the forms of Sonic Dream Team, as we're supposed to be going to be releasing, is expecting to be releasing in this year, absolutely, and is expecting to able to release at some point on December 5th. So because of that, yeah, hopefully we should able to actually discuss more details about that particular game, despite, unfortunately though, I will miss out on that game just because, well, it requires an Apple Arcade subscription or something. So because of that, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate though, especially for what I've seen the gameplay footage anyway. It does look very promising, and to make matters even better, well, Cream the Rabbit has finally come back to life after the events of, well, let's just say, the last time we actually saw Cream the Rabbit was actually in Sonic Generations for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3, because I just felt incredibly sorry for Cream the Rabbit being abandoned, during the course of it, not only in Sonic Forces, but it's also during the forms of in, other Sonic games, likely also Team Sonic Racing, and especially noticeable with the forms of other stuff you know as well. So yeah, it's pretty nice to see Cream the Rabbit has finally makes its return. Well, technically speaking though, when it comes to everything else though, the last time we technically saw Cream the Rabbit was actually in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 apparently, just because despite she was not a playable character in that game, well, we were able to actually see that particular sprite of her for the sake of the forms of one of those main menu navigations, specifically in my data menu as far as I'm concerned. So because of that, yeah, pretty cool to able to have and yet another Sonic game to be released for the sake of the forms of this year so far. Seriously, Sonic is actually now going to get back on track, or should I say myself, has actually gone back on track for the sake of the forms of the releases for now, after that particular 2020 drought, besides the forms within the first movie. So hopefully until next year in 2024, maybe we should probably get some more Sonic content for the sake of the forms of 2024 or beyond. Although mind you, it's about the fact that I somehow managed able to get certain progression so far for the sake of the forms of going back into Sonic Dash, because, relatively speaking though, I've decided able to go after the next cosmetic character, which this time would appears to be buddy forms of Mummy Knuckles. So, despite the fact that it might be a little bit too late for now when it comes to able to playing as him, because concerning for the fact that he's one of those Halloween alternative costumes for Knuckles anyway, but regardless of everything else though, all I just realized is that one of those missions is actually requires you to able to do not get hit by the mine once. So, think of like taking a no damage run or something like that, except that as you can tell, that every once in a while you do come across into that particular estimation mark, meaning about the fact that you've almost gone close to the mine, and if you do manage to get hit by the mine, basically though it's about the fact that you would be able to actually fail the mission. So because of that, yeah, it's another mission I will give the actual thing credit for. Although mind you, as you can tell, we don't need to worry about the forms of that particular moon rings, luckily, so we can potentially try to go after the numbered rings, and especially noticeable with the forms of trying to guide, oh jeez, 4 animals we need to guide through. So because of that, yeah, it's probably best for me to able to save those fleekies or animals for last, for the sake of the forms that if I decided able to replay through all of those Cyberspace segments again. Although, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, you probably already know what to expect, so. But anyways, let's talk about the forms of some more confirmations to talk about. Is that, potentially speaking though, is that ever since your journey forms event 6 days ago, as you probably already expect, that Disney's Brother Bear has recently became 20 years old just recently, and because of that, yeah, happy 20th anniversary of Brother Bear, which I definitely heard about that film before, although to be honest with you, it's been donkey's years since I actually have last seen this film, especially concerning for the fact that I do know right from the start though, is that one of those singers, specifically Phil Collins, that he's actually involved for the actual soundtrack department for Brother Bear, who also did the Journey films of Tarzan and stuff like that, which I will admit though right away, On My Way song, my god, I had a lot of nostalgia memories for that particular song, especially concerning for the fact that, well, although personally speaking though, is about the fact I feel like the actual track selection is a bit underwhelming personally though, because I still prefer listening to Son of Man, Two Worlds, and especially noticeable for Strangers Like Me, from the likes of the films in the Tarzan movie, because I have a lot of strong nostalgia memory for Tarzan a lot more than the films of Brother Bear, because I usually watch that out on the VHS player back in a very long time ago, but as a result, I have not watched that film since during the films have been a VHS release, so because of that, yeah, I have no words, especially considering for the fact that I just, you know, I have not seen a film for quite some time. Mind you, luckily though, it's on Disney Plus though, so at least I might as well give that film a chance or something, but even then though, what I've heard anyways about the fact, I have no idea why, that some people did not like it as much, but regardless of anything else though, it's about the fact that I'm still curious to look back on it though, after 20 years since when it first came out, so. But anywho though, it seems I have no luck to actually just try to find a hidden goal in here somewhere. Maybe I could probably able to look it up at some point, because there might be a couple of times though is about the fact that I have to rely on guides in order to actually just try to find some missing aspects to it, likely also for its rescuing certain animals into their specific spots. And there are some occasions though is about the fact I have to look it up for the forms of off-screen. So potentially speaking though, I can able to easily try to find that. And maybe, just maybe, if I do somehow manage to find the hidden goal during the forms of that particular stage, 4-D, so as a result, I can exponentially try to get myself my glorious S rank if I decided to do so. So because of that, yeah, there's not much else explanations for the sake of time. Oh yeah, there's also another thing I want to classify for mentioning about this as well, is that, potentially speaking though, there is one of those Nintendo Switch apps called Twitch, where basically though, I think relatively speaking though, is that Twitch is about to get removed at some point in next year as well. So because of that, yeah, it seems kind of bizarre to realize that one of those apps in particular is about to get removed or delisted to make matters worse. So, but even then though, and I apologize for that particular weird commentary decides to go a little bit slightly awkward. I mean, let's face it though, it's about the fact that the amount of times I have to keep on about when it comes to try my best to actually decide to look certain things entirely by myself, even though they might be a little bit tricky for certain hidden goal placements for certain cyberspace segments. But ultimately though, it's about the fact that you need to pay attention to the forms of that particular part's worth noting for. So anyway though, so as a result is that the Twitch app for the Nintendo Switch is about to shut down in 2024. To be more specifically though, it's about to get removed until January 31st of 2024. So yeah, I honestly have no idea that particular app is about to get removed during that time. So, oh, and another thing too, speaking of another anniversary thing that just came up, that's what appears to be happy 14th anniversary of the game's release of Rabbids Go Home, for not only for the Nintendo Wii, but also on the Nintendo DS as well. Well, it only happens in during the forms within the past few days ago or something like that, despite the fact that I no longer have Rabbids Go Home, sadly. Well, mind you, because of how the fact that I just simply moved on to the Mario plus Rabbids game duology games, because I just simply prefer Mario plus Rabbids games a lot more, mainly because no matter what though, the amount of voice acting they've got, it was quite impressive, even on the Nintendo Switch duology games when it comes to Mario plus Rabbids games. Maybe they'll make another one for the next generation of consoles or something. Well, mind you, it's kind of hard to tell, but either way though, I guess beggars can't be choosers, I guess, if they don't do that kind of stuff or something. So Anyways though, yeah, let's talk about the forms of certain tracks they did somehow revealed for the sake of the forms of Wave 6, or should I say the final wave for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, and those are, we already know about the forms of Daisy Circuit after all, ever since in the Nintendo Direct of course, but 7 more courses have been revealed, which there are Tour Madrid Drive, which is obviously a Spain track, and of course Piranha Plant Cove, and of course Super Nintendo track, which appears to be Bowser Castle 3, and 2 of my personal favorite choices, which are DK Mountain from Mario Kart Double Dash, and of course Wii Rainbow Road has finally exists for the sake of the forms of that particular, well, track selection. And finally, out of nowhere, I almost assume about the fact that the 3DS Rainbow Road will be expected to be the last 3DS track for the sake of the forms of that particular selection, but as it turns out, it was actually not the case, because as a result, we're about to be getting the true final 3DS track, and that's what appears to be Rosalina's Ice World, which I almost assumed they were able to actually bring a yet another Bowser Castle variant for the likes of the forms of based off of Mario Kart 7, but the reason why I believe that Rosalina's Ice World exists to return for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is because winter is almost approaching. I think that's what it says anyway. So, yeah, and somehow about the fact that when it comes to Piranha Plant Pipeline, it's been disqualified to able to actually join in the actual track selection. So, and honestly, for that particular track selections they have, oh, and another thing as well is that Rome Avantime has already been added as well. So because of that, and as far as the selection goes, I'm extremely happy for it, especially that we've now actually got 5 Rainbow Roads for the very first time in a Mario Kart game. So we have the regular Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart 64, Super Mario Kart, as well as the forms of Mario Kart 7, and now Mario Kart Wii Rainbow Roads. So because of that, almost all 8 of those Rainbow Roads, but even then though, at the very least though, I think 5 will be enough. So because of that, it's kind of unfortunate that the GBA Rainbow Road or GCN Rainbow Road is not going to be included, but that's going to be perfectly fine for my book, because obviously I'm always really looking forward to able to revisiting Wii Rainbow Road, but this time in gorgeous HD, and I predicted that, especially concerning for the fact that that would be a perfect way to end things off with not just by the forms of Wave 6 entirely, but also the entire DLC selection. So because of that though, I'm sure that Mario Kart fans will be extremely, extremely happy about it, myself included, and I just cannot wait to able to try out Wave 6. Even though it's kind of unfortunate for me that I have to wait until specifically until 2 days from now, although relatively speaking it was about the fact that I still ain't able to go back onto Mario Kart Tour for the time being, although, wait a minute, I almost said something completely opposite, haven't I? I'm probably not going to touch on Mario Kart Tour because obviously I'm just getting bored of that game now, especially because, you know, with all that particular upcoming tours gets recycled every now and then, and I believe next up it will be the Animal Tour after the forms of the Autumn Tour, which, truth be told, I didn't exactly spend on spending too much time on Autumn Tour, but that's just mainly because I've already got myself Pauline alongside with the forms of Mario Summer outfit, so well, I suppose it really doesn't matter to me anyway, so, but either way, and, also, for what I've heard anyway, is that in addition with the forms of those last few tracks will be included, is that, potentially speaking though, they also decided able to include some more Mii racing suits, and that's actually pretty interesting, and on top of that, there's going to be a music player, so basically like a sound test or something. I'm not exactly sure what the music player will function for the sake of the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe anyway, but I'm sure we'll find out some more details about that, if assuming of course we've only got 2 more days for now, until that particular DLC arrives, so yeah, and as a result, about no matter what though, I am perfectly happy for the sake of the forms of the larger amount of selections for the entire DLC itself. Although I suppose no matter what though, GBA Rainbow Road is probably not going to happen anytime soon until the next Mario Kart game will be releasing during that time. At least if I was assuming so anyway, so anyway though, let's talk to Sage quickly before we get on to more discussions.
So we've been following the Chaos Emerald's trail, and Knuckles is here for the ruins. But what's Big doing here? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with just going fishing.
Fishing? If you are talking about the purple portals, those are not real locations. They are a type of cyberspace recreated from your memories. I am not picking up any signals like those of the doctors or your friends from those areas. The Big the cat that you saw is most probably an illusion recreated from your memory. The fact that you were able to converse with the illusion and believe it was real speaks of how vivid a memory you have of him. Normally, traveling between spaces is said to cause a feeling of danger at such a level that even you would be able to pick up on it.
Well, it was just Big, so it didn't feel dangerous. But it's good to know that the real Big is out there, safe in the jungle somewhere.
Now, as far as I'm aware, in regards to the forms of those courses, as I mentioned earlier, where it comes to the forms of Wave 6, is that, potentially speaking though, is that they did somehow confirm the actual track order between two of those cups, which are an Acorn Cup and a Spiny Cup. First of all, is that for the likes of the Acorn Cup, they somehow put in Tor, Rome, Avantime, and GameCube, DK Mountain, Wii, Daisy Circuit, and finally Piranha Plant Cove. So because of that, yeah, that's actually a pretty good setup. Now, as far as the Spiny Cup, as far as I'm concerned, aside from the fact that obviously Wii Rainbow Road is the finale of the forms of that particular cup, in addition to the actual entire DLC itself, in addition to that, they're also going to be able to put in Medred Drive, as well as Rosalina's Ice World, and finally Bowser's Castle 3. So, or Bowser Castle 3, if to be more specific. So, and that was it, as far as I'm usually concerned with that particular discussions alike. But still, I'm really excited able to actually race onto the forms of those familiar tracks, but this time in gorgeous HD. And it seems to be more specifically though, is that it looks like we've now able to actually have ourselves a grand total of 11 racetracks from Mario Kart Wii. So yeah, that's actually pretty epic, all things considered, because gee, no wonder why that Mario Kart Wii is considerably the most popular Mario Kart game out of them all, when it comes to likely trying to able to be begging that certain tracks will return for Mario Kart Wii, which I found is actually very, very cool and pretty awesome at the same time. So anyway, so here we go with this next Cyberspace segment, and if you couldn't tell already, our gauge is actually a little bit different this time, which I suppose, in order to able to actually get some good old speed, is that you have to able to keep on boosting, while usually, relatively speaking though, is that you start things off with low speed, but the more you hold up your boost, which as you can tell, the boost gauge is actually in reverse mode, apparently speaking. So as a result, the more you're trying to able to boost, you know, think of like acting like as a car, likely for acceleration meter or something, where basically the longer you boost for that particular straight point, obviously the more speed you were able to get during that specific boost state. So anyways though, yeah, that's about that. And which as a result, for that particular matter though, when it comes to any other remaining courses for Mario Kart in mind, is that it looks like we've only got about 55 tracks that did not make the cut for the sake of the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, when it comes to not only the entire game, but with DLC as well. So because of all that stuff though, and as a result, you know, like I said before, I'm very happy about the forms of that selection so far, especially because it's pretty amazing about the fact that we've now able to actually have 5 different rainbow roads in a single Mario Kart game, which I think is actually pretty incredible if you ask me. So as a result, I'm very hyped about the forms of Wave 6 at this point, especially concerning for the fact that this is a true finale when it comes to Booster Course Pass and Mario Kart 8 in general. Because of all that stuff though, maybe expecting for the fact that, oh wow, I did somehow manage to find myself a hidden goal too. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. Despite I still haven't exactly completed the animal rescuing stuff again. But then again though, I'll be back for that. So 4-G I see. Okay. So that's actually quite an interesting stage. So, but relatively speaking though, I'm pretty sure for that particular stage layout is entirely based off from one of those cyberspace segments in the another version of Aranos' Island, which I think it was 4-2, at least as far as I'm assuming so anyway. So, yeah, I think that's as far as I can usually say about that. So, anyways though, and one thing I found was a little bit fascinating is that I believe once DLC Wave 6 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will be expecting to be arriving, what I found out on the Japanese website is that I believe they did somehow alter it slightly for the sake of the forms of the character selection screen, because you know, we're about to getting ourselves 4 characters, which is obviously Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette. And before I get into more details onto these 2 particular characters in particular, for the likes of not only Pauline, but also Peachette as well, is that, potentially speaking though, they did somehow altered not only Inkling, but also with the forms of Villager as well. Meaning about the fact that we're no longer going to be having ourselves these separate character slots for the likes of the male or boy Inkling, but also with the forms of the Villager boy. So because of that, I believe Inkling boy is now going to be joining with the forms of Inkling girl, and meanwhile for Villager as a boy, it looks like Villager girl is now going to be joining with the forms of the Villager. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. So because of that, I guess that makes it a little bit obvious, because I almost assume about the fact that they're trying to able to actually place not only Tanuki Mario, but also Cat Peach for the likes of the forms of combined character slots for the likes of both Mario and Peach, but straight to the point, I don't think it's possible. So because of that, well, at least we already know where the actual placements are. So relatively speaking of, what I found out is that with Diddy Kong and Funky Kong and Pauline, they apparently onto the final row. So because of that, well, relatively speaking of, I believe Pauline's slot was actually right next to the Mii. So yeah, that's actually interesting. And meanwhile for Peachette, I'm presuming that she's obviously on top of the Mii player selection, and I believe she was right next to Martin Cooper Jr. So yeah, that's actually pretty strange as far as that particular placement as far as I'm concerned. And when it comes to Diddy Kong, I'm pretty sure he was right next to Link. So I almost assume about the fact that we're expected able to have ourselves the last surprise for us. But relatively speaking though, is about the fact I don't think it's actually going to be the case. So anyways though, in terms of the forms of another thing I want to address something about this as well, is that I believe, relatively speaking though, is about the fact that, well, like I said before, is that potentially speaking though, we're about to be getting ourselves another batch of the Mii racing suits coming up with the forms of Wave 6, and I believe we're about to be getting ourselves 17 more of those Mii racing suits, as far as I'm aware of that particular matter though. So even then though, I was thinking about that. So because of that, those outfits include Daisy Mii racing suit, Toadette Mii racing suit, Chain Chomp, Dolphin, Dry Bowser, Cheep Cheep, Pokey, Parabitterbud, I think is what it says anyway, Bodo, and also PD Piranha, Question Mark Block, Mii racing suit, and lastly, it appears to be body forms of Castle Mii racing suit.
Amy, I know you're worried about the Coco. You gotta take care of yourself, too.
I could say the exact same words to you, too. The cyber corruption is painful, but if you can handle it, so can I.
Well, you got me there. We'll get through this together.
And also, keep this in mind though, is that if you really want to get the Daisy Mii racing suit, I believe there is actually the option for you that you can able to actually access to that Daisy Mii racing suit, and that's what appears to be, according to the forms of another screenshot that just showed up, for the forms of the Japanese website for that particular update coming up, is that it looks like the Daisy amiibo is now going to be finally get supported for the likes of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which as a result, I'm pretty sure is right next to the Inkling amiibo, at least as far as I'm aware. So yeah, it seems pretty cool, kind of think about it. Especially, it's a good thing that we're about to be getting ourselves some even more Mii racing suits for the sake of the forms of the deluxe version of Mario Kart 8, making it an ultimate experience. So because of that, minus with the forms of some alternative costumes for certain characters, but I honestly don't care. So because of that, I'm still pretty happy about it as it is, especially, no matter what though, I'm still looking forward to it, especially considering for the fact that, well, all it needs left now is, of course, Super Mario RPG's release, and that'll be it for something related to Mario for the likes of 2023. And I'm gonna say that for Mario stuff during the forms of in 2023 is actually pretty impressive, especially considering for the fact that despite what the game drought during the course of the beginning portion of the year, because obviously, the movie does exist, so because of all that stuff though, I wonder what's going to be up next for Mario though, I wonder, aside from the forms of another 4 games is about to be approaching to its release for the likes of 2024, and maybe at some point in the future, they did somehow manage to able to address something, maybe something like related to that sequel, to the likes of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but it's kind of difficult to tell at this point, especially because concerning for the fact that obviously we still need to sift through a lot of writer strikes that's been going on, so...
Hey, Eggman, you found the emerald yet?
You can't rush genius. And besides, you haven't even finished that tower. What are you waiting for?
Huh, you can't rush Sonic the Hedgehog. I'll be back in a flash.
But anywho, one thing I do appreciate when it comes to the forms of the music player they'll decide able to include alongside with those Mii racing suits and of course Wave 6 after all, is that I really love the actual visual menu screen whenever I did somehow manage to check out the forms of that particular sneak preview. For the likes of the music player, for the likes of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming up, it seems it's kind of similar to the forms of how it does it for that particular familiar Mario image from the likes of the Wii U version of that particular menu startup screen, except the fact that it makes things a little bit more colorful and as well as visually appealing. So as a result, I'm really looking forward to able to see what the music player actually has to offer. So yeah, I guess that's that. So, I suppose the next thing I want to talk about is that potentially speaking though, yes, much like Mario and Luigi from the likes of in the Super Mario Bros. Wonder game, it looks like Kevin has also been voiced Wario from the likes of WarioWare Move It. So because of that, speaking of which though, is about the fact that for I've researched on the actual review so far, from the likes of in WarioWare Move It, despite it's been about a week ago since we've able to originally able to discuss on that front, it looks like that much like the forms of how it does it on the previous WarioWare games, except Game & Wario, it looks like the reviews of WarioWare Move It is also very positive since get it together. So because of that, still having a lot of fun with that particular game so far. Mind you, I need to take a break on that game for a bit, because obviously, like I said before, is that this Thursday coming up is going to be pretty exciting and also exhilarating at the same time. And exponentially speaking though, I'm also able to actually guarantee for saying this, maybe I can probably able to actually conclude or wrapped up everything for the likes of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for reals, and exponentially I'll be able to actually complete the entire game just in time. Although the only thing I'm probably not going to do is the time trials with the forms of those DLC tracks, because they're just for bragging rights, especially concerning for the fact that I was expecting to go for a the Ultimate Challenge for the sake of the forms of 200cc. Well, it's still going to be happening for the Grand Prix mode, but when it comes to time trials though, I'm pretty much not great at them, so I'm going to straight off the bat. So yeah, that's what I can really think about it. And I can assure to you, I believe whenever we get to certain points, that I believe that we will be able to actually show up some of these different playable characters again, so just to ensure we're able to actually show off some other stuff worth noting for. So because of that, it looks like we can't do anything from here for right now, so I suppose we're most able to actually boost our way all the way back to the forms of the 5th and the final trial tower, so just in case I can able to actually just to get this out the way, because relatively speaking though is about the fact that during and coming up, we'll probably get into is by far is the hardest challenge in this particular game by far, Especially if you then manage able to play it on hard mode, my god, there's a lot of frustration involved, which as a result, I think it's probably best for me to able to actually just save that particular topic until when it gets to the point until this Thursday coming up. I mean, relatively speaking though, you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about here, so thankfully we can able to utilize the spin dash, so just in case we can able to make this entire process a bit more faster, so yeah, it looks like no matter what though, is that WarioWare Move It, as I said before, did receive some very good reviews, like as a result, IGN gives the game 7 out of 10, GameSpot for some reason gives it a 6 out of 10, although I should probably explain more about it until on Thursday as well. So because of that, yeah, relatively speaking though, I think we should probably end things off this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. Is that we're about to begin, without a doubt, the hardest challenge in this particular DLC, that's what appears to be the Master King Coco's Trial. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. Later, fellas.